So this is the result of 3 years of hard work, freedom, and responsibility. You know, they say with freedom comes responsibility. So we bought this place for $4,200 and was able to build this house for about $5,000. Had a well on it, and I'm going to show you a clip of what it looked like before we did all the work. This is the first day that we lived here. As you can see, it's all weighted over. This is the trailer. It's a mobile home that has been demolished. We're going to strip this all the way down to the frame. What I find so interesting is they make these trailers out of 2x2s. And these 2x2s are still in pretty good shape. We're going to clean all this up, and that's where we're going to build our tiny house, right? Probably right here. This is the well. I've showed you the well in previous videos before. There's the well hole right there. Okay, so if you want to see the full-length video of that, you can go to my channel, and right at the beginning page, it's a little trailer. That's the video of my first day here. So when we got here, we lived in a little truck camper. Built a truck camper on the back truck. So we took the truck camper off the truck and put it on the ground, and we were living in it. We made a little heat exchanger. And after we got that set up and had enough firewood to get us through the first winter, we started building this. And it took 3 or 4 months. We had to tear down the original trailer, cut the trailer frame down so it's much shorter because it went all the way back to that cedar tree before. Now it just comes to this pole here. Did a lot of work in a short amount of time. When we first got here though, as we were tearing down that trailer, we took a lot of materials from the trailer, like the floor, and we were able to use it to build the tiny house. Well, no sooner did we get here, I was reported. It's a lot of different issues came up, so I may actually get some of the stories confused. I try to keep them all straight in my head. But I think the first person that called us in was from California. And they told the county code commissioner that we were dumping sewage down into our creek. You have to ignore us, we're doing laundry right now. Down in the creek, down in the woods. So originally, and I know people are going to think this is disgusting, but they do it in the Army, so I don't think it can be that disgusting. We were incinerating our waste, but since then we have found the septic tank. It's down there, and another story. But I have never showed the septic tank beyond that first video, because when the code inspector got here, he said, why don't you just keep your sewage system off YouTube? That way we should be able to keep the speculation down as to whether I'm breaking the law or not. So this person in California called us in, the code inspector came out, and everybody said, don't let him on without a warrant, don't let him on without a warrant. Well, I'm going to be honest, I'm really glad I did, because it has done nothing but pay dividends to me. He's been the nicest guy, helped us out. So when we were coming up out of the woods, after he discovered, of course, we weren't dumping sewage, that we were building this thing, he saw it. Well, I mean, I'm sure he saw it coming down, but we were able to talk about it when we were coming back up out of the woods. And he asked what we were building, and I said, well, I'll just be honest, we're building a tiny house. We're going to live in it since it's under 200 square feet. I even talked about the code book, and while we were down in the woods, I said, in the code book, it said we didn't have to follow code while we were building under 200 square feet. And he said, well, it doesn't matter anyways, you're building on a trailer frame. And of course, the trailer frame has a tongue on it. You may have seen that at the first of this video. And he says, as long as it's being built on a trailer frame like that, it's a remodel. I mean, it was a complete remodel. We took it all the way down to the metal. But he said, go ahead and leave the tongue exposed. And he said, that way everybody who sees it knows it's a trailer frame, it's not on the ground. We have no intention of ever moving it. I don't think I'll ever sell this place. I see no reason to. There's just not that much value in it to go and sell it. I can't imagine ever being that hard up. The house isn't worth anything because we didn't follow code. And the property, I just can't imagine why we'd sell it. If anything, we'd give it to our kids. And then when we willed it over, we would just say this is a shed. Like I said, I can't remember the sequence of events, but a sheriff showed up one time and he asked me to provide a permit. And I explained to him I didn't need a permit. He said, well, there was a guy from Tennessee who turned you in and said that you were building this without a permit, and you got to have a permit. I said, no, sir, just a few weeks ago, the code inspector was here and he saw the place and he said, I didn't need a permit. I said, I got his card down in the camper. I can go get it for you. He said, no, I know who it is. And, well, the sheriff lives fairly close by. He has to come by here when he goes to work. So the next day he stops again, and I'm working on the place. And he says, you know, I just wanted to come back and apologize to you. He says, I didn't know you didn't need a permit for, he says, it's not my field of expertise. I just assumed everything you build had to have a permit, but now I know better. But here's what's interesting, is they did pursue that guy in Tennessee. The sheriff told me that they did catch him, and they arrested him for making a false police report. Now, I know there's a lot of people when I say that said, oh, that can't possibly be true. But it is true. You can't just call the police for any old thing without having some actual crime being committed. It's illegal. I mean, for example, we see it all the time. Well, we used to. Viewers would call in subscribers to the SWAT team and say, oh, you know, the so-and-so's wife is being beaten or whatever. It's called swatting. It's an actual term. Well, that's illegal. You can't do that either. You can't just call in false police reports. I mean, heck, there was a woman down in Georgia that faked her own disappearance. Said she was abducted. She was arrested for causing police to do investigation that wasn't necessary. And it causes the police department to spend money and resources on things they don't have to spend money and resources on. Well, then later, I got an email, and it's nonstop. And he said that it just went on and on and on. But he talked about how I am more worried about my freedom than I am about my responsibilities. He says, with freedom comes responsibilities. And you're being irresponsible. You're avoiding the government like some sort of radical. And I don't feel like I'm a radical. I don't think I'm avoiding the government. When they showed up, I didn't say, you need a warrant. No, as a matter of fact, I did the exact opposite. And I said, I'd love to prove to you that I'm not doing anything wrong. Like I said, it's paid off. And when the sheriff stopped by, I didn't say, you need a warrant. I said, no, I have all the proof I need. And if he would have pursued me, then I could have gotten a lawyer. Well, this guy just insists that I'm doing all kinds of things wrong. And I said in a previous video that if this house ever caught on fire, I probably wouldn't call the fire department. Oh, and that gets all kinds of backlash from the government-loving people. They'll say, oh, you have to call the fire department. You're just going to let the thing burn down, and it's going to go out in the woods, and it's going to kill all these people. Well, in that video, I was saying how if it caught on fire, I have a couple fire extinguishers in there, I would try to put it out myself. Of course, I got the well. I got 250 gallons of water right here that goes directly into the house. I could use that. I wouldn't let it catch everything else on fire. I would call the fire department if it looked like I wasn't going to be able to control it. But I have put out my own house fire before. I had a house, and at 2:30 in the morning, I saw the electric was out. I went to investigate, and there was a fire in the breaker box. And I put it out myself. I'm not going to go through the whole explanation, but I put it out myself. Now, it's at this point, somebody will write in the comments section, well, this is what you get for being on social media. If you keep yourself, nobody's going to bother you. You want all your freedom, and you want to be isolated from everybody, but then you get on social media. Well, social media is where I make money. Social media is keeping me from having to go work for an employer. Social media keeps me on my property. And that's a pretty good deal. Yeah, there's some downsides to it, like people calling you in, but it's a good deal. There's just things you got to do with every job that you just don't like. So I just keep my nose clean and I don't do anything illegal. Well, then recently, and I've made several videos on this, there has been this guy, it's hard to explain, but there's either a guy or a group of guys or people who claim to be a retired code enforcement official. And again, this one's from California. And he claims that my well is illegal. This well is probably 50 or 60 years old. Matter of fact, I've had to do a lot of work to it to get it back to its newer conditions. But recently I've been able to get it to where it's working perfectly. There's no leakage, there's no contamination anymore. Everything's working fine. And so I had to put in a new well packer and a new well liner and French drain. I built a ditch so the water's not running down the hill into it. I built this building and a little concrete pad. Spent about $500 and 2 years of continuous stress trying to figure out what was wrong with it, but I finally got it. But you got to remember, this thing was sitting here since the 90s, not being used. And during that time, the well water was getting contaminated with groundwater. Over the 2 years, I was able to keep that from happening anymore. Well, this guy insists that this well is illegal because I'm contaminating the well water, so it can contaminate everybody else's wells. So therefore, I must immediately concrete it in. Well, this guy used to comment at least weekly, and I would block every one of his comments. He's telling me he was going to call my code enforcement, that he's going to start filing reports against me, and just all kinds of things. And the next week he'd come back on and say it again in a different account. On YouTube, you can block all the people you want. They just make new accounts. And they come back, causing trouble. Well, then they go to other social media accounts, Facebook or other YouTube channels, and they talk about how I'm a criminal. Well, he finally did call code enforcement. Code enforcement came down, and he couldn't remember why he was here before, but he knew he was here. Nice guy. And I reminded him, I don't think he still remembered what it was all about. And he said, well, tell me what's going on about this well. What is the deal? And so I explained the whole thing, just like I explained to you. It was an old well in bad shape when I got here, and I repaired it. And he says, it's not even illegal. There's nothing in the code book about an existing well. He said, if you built a new one, it would have to be underground, but this one's an existing well. There's nothing saying that you have to bring your old well to current standards. Things like grandfather clauses and stuff, I don't even think they can do that, he said. Apparently, he sent a letter to the guy. I don't know if it was an email, but he said he was going to charge him or fine him or give him a ticket or something that he would have to pay for the harassment of the code enforcement, using resources. Well, this is when I discovered it's not one guy. I'm sure it's not one guy. If my code enforcement guy actually sent a fine to this dude, I don't see why he would do it again. But shortly thereafter, maybe a month or two, it started back up. Well, my code enforcement guy told me, just make videos and tell them to stop doing it. They're going to get in trouble. But again, my nose is clean. I've done my homework. And as long as you do your homework, and even if you miss something in your homework, like, oops, I didn't catch that one, people are very generous. They will work with you. Just like he said, it doesn't matter if it's 200 square foot or not. It's on a trailer frame. At least if you treat them decently. Now, of course, if you come in, where's your warrant? They're not going to treat you decently. They're going to come after you. Well, recently I've had to up my defense a little bit. It's getting pretty dangerous. I've always known YouTube is a very dangerous job. I've kept my guard up. I got my home defense. I carry, conceal and carry. Have all my, since like 2011, I've concealed and carried. Recently, I've ran into two different circumstances that it didn't escalate to deadly force, but it did concern me greatly. And I don't know where these guys came from. It was two different occasions. And the first occasion, the guy was pretty angry, and he started chasing me. And he wanted me to stop telling lies on YouTube. That there is no, I don't even understand exactly what it is he thought I was lying about. But he was upset that I'm telling people that they can live their dreams like I have when it's not possible. You can't build a house with codes, and you can't buy property for $4,200. So I guess what it is he can't accomplish this stuff. So it was just easier to chase after me. And the second one, I didn't even let it get that far. I stayed back away from him. He started to approach me, and I said, what are you doing? Stay away. And he says, I want to talk to you. I said, stay away, I don't want to talk to you. I reached behind my back. Now that's where I keep my firearm. I know a lot of people say, you shouldn't keep it in your back, but that's where I keep it. And I made it obvious that I had my hand on my firearm. And I think that was enough to slow him down. I didn't display it, I didn't do anything illegal. I just wanted to intimidate him. Now this guy was huge. He had to be every bit of 7 feet tall. He was a monster. Just built, I'm sure he exercised daily. And so he never even explained to me what he wanted. Well, since then I've upped my self-defense. And I'm just not going to let anybody intimidate me. I've told you that I've gotten some pepper spray. This is palm pepper spray. It's supposed to last, I think, I forget now, 2007. So it's going to last a good long time. It's POM, palm, and it's recommended by this pretty famous YouTuber. So I've got that, and I'm just not going to tolerate it anymore. I shouldn't have to live in fear that some subscriber is going to come after me. It is illegal to do what they're doing. They've been arrested, they've been fined, and they keep coming. They are the criminal, and if you're going to blame me for being a victim, then it's called victim blaming. I have a job to do. So if you click this up next box, take you to a video where I was talking about fire department taking your wood stove away. So if I can inspire you to be free and do it on your own with your own responsibilities. Thanks for watching.